Good morning, everybody. So, Duviri Paradox is finally out, and I was able to play it a bunch yesterday. Not too much, um, but I really enjoyed the quest. Thought it was really well done. Frankly, I thought it was a lot better than New War. Um, Duviri is absolutely gorgeous. One of my friends
Operator,
messaged me,
I've run
"Wow, this new
diagnostic
Elden Ring
regressions.
DLC
All
is
systems
lit," and I'm
nominal.
like, "Yeah,
No
pretty
mutants.
much. It does really feel like you're playing that type of a game." Um, so I just wanted to make a video about some of my initial thoughts about Duviri and mostly some kind of tips that I picked up that might be useful. So the first thing was so this is your Drifter intrinsics. Also, like, I just want to take a second, like the lighting and I switched over to the enhanced engine and DX12 and everything, and it is insane how good Warframe looks. Like, my goodness, for a free game, like look at these reflections on the ceiling from the door. Like, absolutely incredible. So, when I first read the patch notes, I was looking at the Drifter intrinsics, and when you start the quest, you basically have to put 1 point in your riding to get your mount. Okay. So when I was initially looking at these, I was like, oh, well, I'm probably going to go like the mount first to get, you can unlock riding your mount in the origin system. Maybe I'll go this one. I'm probably going to go opportunity last. That doesn't seem very useful. Well, obviously I changed my mind. So opportunity, now I have put most of my points in, and let me show you why. So let me just change this to solo. I don't want to ruin anybody else's day. Um, Sorry, that's the circuit. So I think this is awesome. I think this is such a cool idea. That was really. I really like the systems they added in this patch, and I like how they are equally good for newer players and veteran players. Okay, so all right, sorry. Let me get over here to your choices. Now, why did I go down opportunity, right? So, as a drifter intrinsic. Now, normally you'd only have 3 Warframe choices and like 3 weapon choices. Now, your frame is going to be extremely important. I would probably just go with Hildren here. Which I have Hildren Prime, so I'm very surprised that it showed me Hildren and not Hildren Prime. That's interesting. Okay, whatever. So I have 6 weapon choices. Without the opportunity perks that I have, I'd only have 3. Now let's look at what I have. Prisma Grinlock, complete garbage. Kuva Carrick, not garbage, but I don't have this modded. Duaraza, garbage. Neferi, passable. Twin Comac, not actually garbage, but I don't have them modded. And Stubba. Okay, so out of all of these, the only one of these weapons that I have currently modded that could kill Steel Path enemies are probably these, right? All the rest of those weapons are completely useless on Steel Path. So, and Sildren is pretty strong. So luckily I got a good frame. Now, ordinarily you'd only get 3 frames. So the reason why I ended up going this first is because I actually think getting additional options is insanely important. Because one thing that Duviri has really highlighted to me is how bad most of the weapons are in Warframe. Because holy moly, it is like there's been multiple times where I just had to restart. Like I couldn't even do the circuit on Steel Path because I got such bad weapon options. And some of these weapons, like the Stubba, it doesn't matter what build you have on the Stubba. I think there's 2 big problems. One is some weapons are so bad, it doesn't matter what build you use, they're not going to be able to do Steel Path. And then 2, you might get a weapon that could do Steel Path. So for example, the Kuva Carrick is not a bad weapon. It could do Steel Path. However, I never use this weapon. I basically level it up to, I didn't even level it up to 40. I leveled it up to 30 and I stopped. I don't even think I put a, whatchamacallit, a catalyst in here. Okay, so I'm sure the build I have on this is, yeah, I don't even have a build, so it's giving me the default mods, right? So I guarantee you this build would be trash on Steel Path. This actually would maybe not be that awful. No, it would be pretty bad. So this build would be really bad on Steel Path, right? So I really think they need to add a button like here, like change build, right? You need to be able to edit your weapon builds while you're doing this. Because you can't do it from here, right? So you really need to be able to edit your weapon builds, because otherwise, the other solution to this is going through your arsenal and adding a Steel Path capable build for every single weapon in Warframe. Now let's just look at the profile real quick. Let's just look at this real quick. There are that's weird. Why is it only showing me Warframes? Huh, okay. I guess maybe I need to take something? Whatever. That's really weird. Okay. Well, that failed miserably. Huh. It's not showing me weapons. Interesting. Okay, so anyways, if you go look at the profile, there's like 700 something items. Now you can't actually use all those items, you know, like not all those are weapons or frames. There's like arc wings and companions and stuff. But there's a solid like 500-600 warframes and weapons. And like I started going through my arsenal and like updating all my weapons, and I was like an hour in and I was like a fraction of the way through my primaries, and I'm like, holy crap. This is ridiculous. Like, I'm not doing this. So I really think that they need to let you modify builds here. A way that you can mitigate that is by going this opportunity path. I also think that this is really good because at rank 9 you get the arcanes from the vendor. I'm also not a huge fan of this. I think that Duviri is like extremely close to being really, really, really good. I think there's just like a few things that are a little off. So for example, like, you know, another, like I just said, another reason to go down this opportunity route is, one, you get to like the really fun thing, which is being able to play as the Stalker. 2, you get arcanes. This opens up being able to buy arcanes from the vendor. Now, if you go to the vendor, it will show you an arcane. It's just locked. You can't purchase it. What I think they should do is, if you don't have this, there's one arcane at the vendor you can buy. And what this rank 9 does is add another arcane that you can buy. Because right now it kind of feels bad, right? You go do a bounty, or you go do like the open world, you go kill the Oro Worm, which is honestly an amazing fight and really, really fun. You go kill the Oro Worm, and you get your, you know, clamps or whatever you need, and you go to the vendor, and it's like, oh, well, I can see this thing that I want to buy, but I can't actually buy it yet.
Envy only embitters it.
So to me, that kind of feels bad. So there's a couple other like really high value points, I think. So on Steel Path in Duviri, enemies do like a crap ton of damage to your drifter. You can easily get one shot. You know, before you like learn all the enemies' attacks and stuff, you can honestly very easily just get one shot. I saw when I was doing bounties yesterday, I saw people dying like left and right. And the archers are really nasty. because it's pretty hard to tell like when they're attacking you. I mean, you do get like a phantom arrow on your body before they attack you, but it's if there's multiple of them, it can be pretty hard, and they have a lot of mobility. So they really remind me of the archers underground in Elden Ring, with like that would shoot you with spirit arrows from like 6,000 miles away. So one way to combat that is getting fortifying decrees. So that's the first point in endurance. So this one. I think that this is a really nice value point because it just gives you like a whole bunch of max HP. So as soon as you start progressing through like the bounties, and this is more pertinent to the like the open world playthrough of Duviri. Um, so if you're doing like the spirals and stuff, um, which are really fun and you get great rewards for doing them. So every time you get a decree, the max health basically gives you a little bit of a buffer to not get one shot on Steel Path. You could go this up to 5. That's like the other really good thing. Honestly, the rest of this is kind of whatever. I think this is kind of like a 1-point wonder until you get the rest of these, frankly. The other one that is really, really good. So I would say like getting this is a super good value point. The other thing that's really good, you probably almost want to get it before going into opportunity, is transference sync. This is basically your OP I win button. Um, it's like the opposite of Warframe, of traditional Warframe, where you unlock your operator. Now you unlock being able to call in your Warframe. And it's kind of similar to the pre-War Within operator, where like you would just get this temporary void form where you were shooting out a void laser. That is the that's kind of how your Warframe is. It's like you get it for a very short duration, but I mean you get like a Warframe at full power, right, against these enemies, and you basically completely wipe the floor with anything when you're in your Warframe in Duviri. So if you're surrounded by a whole ton of enemies, you just pop into your Warframe, kill everybody, and you're good to go. This is especially useful before you get a bunch of decrees stacked up, because your Drifter can get really powerful, but it depends a lot on the decrees that you get. So once you've like been in Duviri for a while and you have a bunch of decrees, you don't really need to use your Warframe anymore. Your Drifter is kind of pretty powerful. But before that, you can definitely run into bad spots where like maybe I mean there's times where you aggro like 10 mobs at once, or 10 enemies at once, and some of them do a lot of damage, so you can get overwhelmed, especially if you're playing solo and nobody can res you, and you need to use a revive, and you can't use companions on Duviri, so you can't even like circumvent it with something like that. So I would say this is super value. This is really value. Go down opportunity, and then you can probably just go down riding, I guess. You can take your pick between the two. I also think like going down the rest of combat is really cool too.
Is it
So
any
this
wonder
brings me
things
to
fell out as they
oh
did?
let me do this. So there are
I
some really
could
cool
have
decrees.
done
Now
so much more.
I'm gonna hit my Q button, and you'll see that there's only emotes here. There is no gear wheel, right? There is no gear wheel. And you know what that means? Because there's no gear wheel, there's no decaying dragon key. So shield gating in the circuit is extremely difficult to pull off. Unless you're a frame that naturally shield gates, like Hildren or Mag, Harrow, Trinity, whatever. Unless you're a frame that naturally uses shield gating, you basically can't shield gate in Duviri, in the circuit. Because most shield gating builds, you use the Decaying Dragon Key to lower your shields, and then you have enough. You have a combination of Brief Respite and your Augur mods to regen your shields to just over that amount when you use an ability. But without the Decaying Dragon Key, it's nearly impossible for most frames to actually reset their shields fully. And shield gating is a hell of a lot worse when you are not resetting your shields fully versus when you are. So that's going to be really hard for people to get used to, I feel like, because shield gating has been like a huge part of the meta of Warframe for a really long time, like 3 years now, I think. The patch that added shield gating was right before Scarlet Spear, I think, which was 3 years ago. So, um, I think that's going to be tough. I was kind of caught off guard because I took Equinox last night, and I was like, why am I dying? Like, why are my abilities not shield gating me? And that's when I had this realization. So that's a really big thing to keep in mind. Now that brings me to, so your Warframe choice might change a little bit because you can't shield gate. So I actually think that Warframes that can CC are extremely good in the circuit because a lot of the modes, so it's different
If
endless
you've
modes for
coveted
Warframe, right?
anything in this world,
So a lot
take
of
that.
the endless
I would hope
modes
you have
are
the
related
courage
to
to
defending
go and
targets,
win it for
right?
yourself.
So you have things like excavation. For some reason, excavation loves to pop up during the circuit. You have survival, defense. Um, Obviously survival you don't need like to defend anything, but for defense and excavation can be a huge pain if you don't have a way to defend the excavators, because like when you're in the circuit on Steel Path there is a lot of enemies spawning attacking these objectives, so it's really 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 nice to have some type of AoE or like huge AoE or like AoE CC. So I played 3 rounds of the circuit last night. I didn't go super far, like super deep. I'm only like a third, like on my third step of the circuit, I think. So I played 2 rounds with Gauss. I happened to get him back to back, and I got oh no, I actually played four. I did one with Avara, two with Gauss, and one with Equinox. So they all felt pretty good. Gauss, I just kind of had to run around dropping cold zones to slow enemies down. Avaro is actually hilariously easy, and this brings me to another point, is Warframes with exalted weapons. I think their stocks are skyrocketing because of the circuit. Because if you get a Warframe with a good exalted weapon, you know it doesn't matter what weapons you get, you know you're still going to be able to kill stuff. So Avara, I just used my concentrated arrow build, and I have Ensnare on there. I was solo for that one. The other ones I did grouped, and it was so easy. I couldn't even tell I was on Steel Path because Avara's bow, especially now that they fixed the bugs, does a ton of damage. So, and pretty much all of the exalted weapon frames are more than capable of mincing up Steel Path enemies. Whether it's Valkyr is actually probably a lot better now because you don't have shield gating, but Valkyr is insanely tanky because she has like thousands of armor. So Valkyr can just murder enemies. Not doesn't do as good of a job defending objectives, so you might want to do something like having snare on her or some type of like Helminth, defensive Helminth. Excalibur, I mean, Chromatic Blade can mince through Steel Path. Baruch, obviously. Oh, so you can fail if you don't go in quickly enough. Um, so, um, so yeah, I think exalted weapon frames have really are like much better because of that. Um, Also like any frame that can reasonably like health tank, right? Like tanking with your HP is something you kind of have to do now. Um, oh, well, I actually played more than I realized. I played 1 round with Citrine too. And Citrine felt amazing because she's super tanky because of her too, and I'm using a full Umbral build on her. So a full Umbral build with her too made her way, I didn't even notice I was taking damage because she's so tanky. So, so yeah, anything that's tanky has CC or like huge AoE clear like Equinox or Saren, um, I think those are really, really good. They did nerf, so you get a lot of. One thing I noticed is the enemies in the circuit tend to drop a lot of like pickups, like energy and health and whatnot. Maybe it was just like RNG, I don't know, but so when they did nerf Mirage's explosive ledger domain, which is a real shame because it was a pretty fun augment. I do actually think it might open up some options for her builds, but I'll have to go back and change some of the Mirage builds that I've made. Um, but yeah, so that's kind of been my experience with Duviri so far. I really, really like doing. It's kind of funny because I generally don't like bounties, but with the Drifter spirals, it's this really nice mix of fast-paced Warframe gameplay and much slower, methodical
Do
Drifter
you remember
gameplay.
the old war,
And
operator?
I was very
Order
pleasantly
seems to have
surprised how
misplaced
well it
those
kind of
words.
worked together. So huge kudos to DE. I think that they really pulled it off. I think that they did a fantastic job. Once again, visuals for the Duviri are just beyond amazing. Like just absolutely unbelievably awesome. Like so cool. And I think I really like that there's these multiple ways to approach Duviri, like the circuit, the Duviri experience, the lone story, like being able to kind of say, okay, this is what I want to do, and it helps a lot for public matches too. Um, so this is my drifter, so I'm just gonna pick random stuff. I just want to get into. Um, so one thing is, once you pick a loadout for a particular
The
spiral, that's
covetous
just your
courtier
loadout, right? So this is
Ernestine was
Duviri, and
envious
like
of
honestly,
what?
if you had told me that this is
Anything.
what Warframe was gonna
Wherever
look
his
like
gaze
in
fell, it seemed other
years
people had
ago,
it better.
like wow,
I am
just
better than any of them. Fate and
absolutely,
small, jealous
absolutely
others have
amazing.
conspired to
It's
inflict this
honestly like
upon me.
breathtaking how awesome this looks.
You,
Um,
you defy their
so
cruelty
I
and
personally
aid
think
me.
Duviri was well worth the wait. Um, I've been having a blast, so I'm probably gonna be playing it a lot. I haven't made a lot of videos over the past year or so because frankly I wasn't really enjoying Warframe too much. I did go back and kind of catch up over the past couple of weeks. I farmed up everything I'd missed out on over the past year or so, um, which that was nice. So I'm definitely looking forward to jumping into Duviri. I really want to try out some of the new arcanes. Really excited to see like where they're gonna go from here. Now we're kind of caught up with everything they've shown us in the past, so everything moving forward is going to be completely new. So yeah, I think very excited for the future of Warframe. I'm glad to be playing again. It definitely feels like kind of reinvigorated and fun. I know a lot of people, myself included, really liked like the slower gameplay of the Drifter from um, the new war quest, and I think this nails it. Like how combat feels, like how slow it is, and like parrying, and you have like your power strike and all this stuff. It's really, really awesome. I think that they did such a good job. So I'm looking forward to the future. Those are some of the tips and thoughts I had just from my first day of playing. If I find anything else that's really cool, I'll probably make another video. But until then, hope you all have a lot of fun in Duviri as well, and I'll see you around.